Natalia Bonner. Welcome back. Happy, not New Year, Halloween maybe? Anyways, I have a fun Halloween quilt that I get to share with you today. So in this video, I am going to be sharing my full process of machine quilting this fun Halloween quilt from start to finish. This isn't typically what I share here on YouTube. Usually I share just a sneak peek, kind of a snippet, but this is such a little table topper that I thought it would be fun to share my full process with you. Now, make sure you do check out the PNQ Academy. The PNQ Academy, you can enroll on our website, pieceandquilt.com. But in the PNQ Academy, I have included over 130 machine quilting videos where I share my full process. So similar to what you'll see here, but they're actually even more in depth, where I share exactly what I'm quilting throughout a full quilt. So on this fun quilt, I am going to be doing all my quilting here, like always, on my Gammill 22-inch machine. This is hand-guided quilting, and I will be stitching in the stitch-regulated mode with my stitch regulator set at 13 stitches per inch. So the threads that I'm going to be using here on this quilt, I'm actually going to switch and use a couple of different ones. I'm going to be using So Fine color number 403 and also So Fine color number 429. So I don't always just stick with one thread color. Sometimes I do change and mix it up a little bit. Throughout this whole quilt, I am going to be using one layer of the Quilter Stream Poly Deluxe batting. It really is my favorite batting. I love the way that it quilts, the texture that it creates, and then once it's washed up, it really ends up softening up quite a bit and creates really beautiful texture. Plus, I love on some quilts, like a table topper, but there isn't quite as much shrinkage as there is with like a full cotton batting. The ruler that I'm going to be using throughout this whole video is going to be my mini 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler, and I do have our Piece and Quilt pop socket ruler grip here on the top side. It really helps me to grab onto my machine quilting ruler as I'm quilting. You can pick up all these products that I've mentioned, plus enroll in the PNQ Academy on our website, pieceandquilt.com. But for now, let's hop over to my machine and let's get stitching. So here's this fun little table topper before I begin any of the machine quilting. This table topper is so cute. Something to notice though about a quilt like this. When machine quilting, most often fabric colors like black will really hide the machine quilting. The threads usually just kind of blend into it. It won't ever stand out as much as a color like white. So in my white blocks, I'm kind of going to make them a little bit of the focal. I'm going to have fun machine quilting some spider webs. I love machine quilting spider webs. Even though I don't love them in real life, they're so much fun to machine quilt. So here you can see the little table topper after my machine quilting is all complete. So look closely here and you can see a couple of those blocks I have filled completely with a spider web. And then in a third block, I have a small spider web that's just hiding among the swirls. Then through all of the black portions, remember how I told you that really my quilting is going to blend in. This is where I did choose to use that orange color of So Fine thread, the 429. And I chose to quilt some ribbon candy through each of those so you can still see the texture. And when you're looking closely, you can see that orange thread, but it doesn't take away. You can really see that those white blocks kind of really pop in the outside portion. So in that checkerboard fabric around the outside of the table topper, I'm going to keep it really simple with a straight line design. Let's hop over to my machine and let's get stitching. So I love the look of Stitch in the Ditch. I feel like it just really finishes designs off nicely. So I am going to start out here using the curved edge on my mini 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler, and I'm going to stitch in the ditch all the way around this first upper left block. Because I do all of my quilting on a Gammill 22-inch machine, you will see that I like to do my machine quilting from top to bottom, left to right. So I'm pretty much always starting in the top left corner. Now here you can see as I work my way across that top curve on the block, because I'm choosing to just stick with the mini 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler, I'll kind of move the ruler around and manipulate the ruler. I think it's really good to learn how to be very gentle with your rulers and know how to manipulate them around curves and other odd shapes. When machine quilting with rulers, quilts are made by humans. Humans are not making curves most often as perfect as a ruler. So it's good to know how to be gentle, adjust your rulers as you go to make the quilting really make the piecing stand out. You want to add to what's already going on there. So once I've completed that stitch in the ditch work, you'll see how I'm going to now add an echo line. I like to add an echo line just as a place for my eye to rest. Because I do have my ruler foot here on my Gammill machine, I know that from the outside of my ruler foot to my needle position, it is 1/4 of an inch. So by lining my machine quilting ruler up so the side of the ruler is right on top of the ditch, I can quilt that echo line all the way around, and I know that my machine quilting is going to be evenly spaced 1/4 of an inch in all the way around. Now once I have that echo stitch complete, I'm going to go right into my swirls. So often I get the question, do I keep my ruler foot on my machine when I'm doing free motion quilting and also my extended base plate? The answer is yes, I keep them on there all the time because I am so often working back and forth between free motion quilting and ruler work that it's just most comfortable for me to leave those tools on my machine all the time. When machine quilting swirls, I'm always kind of thinking ahead. What do I mean by thinking ahead? Well, I'm thinking about leaving myself an out. As I swirl into the center, I'm thinking ahead and thinking, leave enough space to stitch yourself back out of that swirl. Always thinking ahead. The next thing I'm always thinking about is alternating directions. I want my swirls to go in different directions. By making my swirls go in different directions, I feel like overall I end up having a little bit better result. The other thing to remember when machine quilting swirls, echoes are your friend. Whenever you have an open space, I like to fill in that space with swirly echoes. So as I continue to work my way through this little quilt, I'll repeat that same process. So I'm going to fill in all of the rows across the top of the quilt, so all the white backgrounds with that same design. As I continue to work my way through the quilt, then moving on to the second row, again I'm going to repeat the same process, starting out by stitching in the ditch around the outside. Now on this block, we are going to add in that spider web, so I'm going to change it up just a little bit here. But like that first one, you can see how I manipulate my ruler and move it around as I'm machine quilting in my ditch. Now on this block, however, instead of adding that echo stitch, I'm going to go right into creating my spider web. So coming from that first corner, I'm going to stitch a straight line, kind of a random line coming out from that corner. At that point, I'll stitch all the way across my block as far as I can go. Once I get all the way across the block, then I'll free motion quilt just a curved line. I'm not even measuring spacing or anything for this spider web. But once I've quilted that curved line, then I'm going to repeat the process and stitch back to the corner and then do that all over again. So once I have the foundation of the spider web all quilted out, now I just start filling it in. And the cool thing about machine quilting spider webs is there's really no rules. They can be as wild as you want. Obviously, I try to be pretty consistent with my density. I don't quilt one section really heavy, but I just start stitching kind of point to point or line to line curves. Some are deeper than others, some are shallow curves, some are really deep. And I do try to alternate and make some different just to create even more interest. So once I have all of the white color of thread quilted, so all those background or white blocks all quilted, now I'm going to switch thread colors and I'm going to use that orange color to complete the quilt. When I look at a quilt that I'm going to be using multiple thread colors on, I look at it, and if there's one that there's quite a bit more, then I will go through and quilt all of one color and then switch to my second color and go through and quilt everything with the second thread color. Now, because I know my quilting is going to kind of disappear into this print fabric out here on the outside, I chose to stick with really simple straight lines. These straight lines are all evenly spaced a 1/2 inch apart. So to quilt those out, I'm using my mini 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler. I'm lining up the first marked line on that ruler, which does indicate on the ruler it's a 1/2 inch marking, which means if I lay that marked line on my ruler right on top of my previous stitch line, when I stitch, my lines will all be evenly spaced a 1/2 inch apart. I'll repeat that process going up the left side of the quilt and then across the top of the quilt. I'll repeat it again on the right side of the quilt and also the bottom side. Now to fill in each of those black melon shapes, I'm going to quilt the ribbon candy, again using that orange 429 color of thread. So I'll start out small on the left side and work my way across that first melon, getting larger as I work through the center and then small again as I reach the point. And here you can see just a little bit more close up working now in that second melon. I'll start at the bottom side and work up to the top. On these ones, because the quilt is already basted down really well by the machine quilting I've already done, I feel like I kind of can jump around and work kind of in a weird order, but I do still most often try to quilt from left to right. As I work towards the center, you'll see that I'm going to continue that ribbon candy design, but I will continue the design right into those orange half melon shapes. So I'm going to combine the black half melon and the orange half melon and make them one with my machine quilting. And last but not least, to finish off this little table topper, I'm going to quilt some long figure eights through the center block. There's just so much going on there with that print that I didn't feel like it needed a whole bunch of crazy ruler work or anything like that. Just some fun, long figure eights, starting out small, getting larger as I quilt my way across, and you will notice how I am quilting them on the diagonal so that they will fill in those spaces completely. So I'm getting really long as I work my way through the center, but then they'll start to get small again as I work across to the opposite corner. I love how this little Halloween table topper turned out. Such a fun quilt to custom machine quilt. Make sure you do check out the PNQ Academy, where we have lots of videos with unlimited inspiration. Find all the details on our website, peaceandquilt.com. Have a great day, everybody.
Why did the Scarecrow win an award? He was outstanding in his field.
Halloween. $403 and $429. Regular set at 13 stitches per inch. Gotta get back to breath. So the threads that I'm going to be using here on this quilt, I'm actually going to switch and use it as there is with like a full cotton batting edit. The ruler that I'm going to be using throughout this whole, now let's hop over to my machine and let's get stitching. Did you think I was on an elevator? Wardrobe change.